I would like to welcome you to Cater's Art Gallery. Our preview, our featured artist is Nyaris. Welcome, Nyaris.
Thank you, Sonia. It's nice to be here. So tonight we are exhibiting a preview of my exhibition, my work called Women Alone. It is a compilation, a collection of artwork showcasing Caribbean women dancing, moving, enjoying life, and just representing the idea that they are bearers of culture, keeping, the cultural connection alive.
I started collecting Nyaris' work my first year in St. Croix in 2016, and the dream of being an art collector really has been behind having my own private collection. So my first piece by Nyaris was a piece called Green Apples. What was that subject about, those green apples? Actually, when I bought it, I picked it up. It was on the floor in an art gallery, and I picked it up, and it kind of sat on my lap. And it just never got moved because I felt like I had to take it home with me. So what was the story behind those green apples?
So for me, my art comes from my experiences. Every piece that's in here and every piece I ever do comes from my experiences, even if it's just a still life, like apples. I had a really bad case of GERD. Probably not the most romantic story, and I loved apples, and I'd buy this big bag of apples, and the doctor said, you can't eat apples. And I was like, what am I gonna do with all this food in the fridge? I can't eat it. And they rotted in the fridge. And I just took them and I threw them on the floor, and where they landed, I decided to paint them. And it's like a really personal story about that. It turns out I could have eaten apples and I don't know what was wrong. But that's what, and I like still lifes. I find still lifes you can tell a story with just, the still life. My favorite type of art is the vanitas from the Dutch tradition of coming out of the memento mori genres of art. And still lifes for me represent just this whole concept of what is past and the moving of life and the transience of life, which is kind of also derived from the vanitas. That's what they mean. So that's where that came from. And I just love also that they are still, it's easier for me to paint a still life because it's not moving, it'll stay there for as long as I can get to stay there. So it's a good way to practice painting techniques and stuff like that.
Well, it's so funny that in her liking to paint still lifes, I think I must own like 5 of her still lifes paintings because there are many different depictions. And I think it's like it's frozen in time. It's not the movement here. It's a different kind of permanence in terms of work. So I really have an affinity to also purchasing still life works.
And it's kind of ironic as you say that, because at the same time it is, my still lifes talk about the transience of life, talk about the lack of permanence of life, that we look for that mortality, and for me, the mortality is exhibited in the still life, but at the same time it's immortal, because now I've got a painting and it's captured this moment, and that speaks to an experience, and it creates a memory. And a lot of my work can be kind of placed under this heading of memory and experience. So that's where they come from. I find that they hold on to those experiences.
So this first show has been a birth, so to speak, between our relationship as someone who has purchased her work, having been a collector of her work, to actually always knowing that when I met you, that you were going to be the first artist that I would exhibit in my gallery.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm learning that for the first time, I think.
was that?
I think I'm learning that for the first time.
Yeah, I always knew that you would be. I always knew that you would be the first artist that I would exhibit, and that we didn't have a concept of what the show would be, because as an artist, you're constantly developing. You're always in a new phase of your work or a new body of work. So when this came about, you even had a different title,
Right, right.
and then this also evolved, but your work was constant as what you were going to create as a new body of work.
Right, and coming out of an education background, I have skill in a lot of different media. I'm adept in different media, even in sculpture. I do actually create sculpture. And so I work in oil, so some of the pieces in here will be in oil. We have watercolor. When I say oil, it's mixed media, but the actual painting medium is oil, and the others are watercolors. And I also can work in acrylics, and I do sculpture. And one of the things about my work, and not being able to kind of stick to the same thing all the time, is like I get a lot of ideas, and for me, the medium, the idea chooses the medium, if you will. Like there's some ideas that can only be expressed through certain media. So that's why I do so much different kinds of works. And so this started because of COVID, right? Like we're all quarantined at home, and what's the best thing for an artist to do when they're stuck in their house and they can't go out, they can't do anything? Paint, make art. And so it was as unfortunate as this whole situation is, it was good for me in that I was able to actually have sustained time at home to practice and make this collection of art, create this exhibition.
Well, Nairis, I cannot thank you enough. This has been an incredible preview to what is coming ahead. December 16th, December 17th will be our grand opening with 21 bodies of work, 21 pieces of work. And it will be on Art Thursday here in St. Paul and Christiansted.
At Cairns, 24 Company Street, Cairns Art Gallery, with the fabulous Sonia Dean. And I just want to thank you, Sonia, for believing in me and for pursuing me, right? Maybe for you special.
Oh, you're very
for mentoring me and just encouraging me to make my art and to see the value in what I do.
And I appreciate you too, as you know. Thank you very much.